77 days till DragonCon. And I haven't even made apple pie yet. So it's a couple months till DragonCon, and around this time I like to make some apple pie. And for those of you guys that don't know what that is, it's just basically Everclear, some apple juice, some apple cider, and a little bit of sugar. And then maybe a couple other ingredients if you want to get fancy with it, but that's kind of the basics. So I like to make it a couple months ahead of time and then just let it seep. It's something nice to take with you to DragonCon, especially if you don't want to spend too much money on alcohol. Everclear is super cheap. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the process. So first things up, the list of ingredients that you'll need is a gallon of apple juice, a gallon of apple cider, a gallon of Everclear. Now I like to make some of mine a little bit stronger, so I'll add in another half gallon of Everclear. You can also add chunks of apples, cinnamon, honey, different types of sugar, so you can tweak it. The only thing about the cinnamon, I would only add cinnamon sticks, and I'd only add that maybe a week or two before con, because you don't want the cinnamon sticks will give it a little bit of an acidic taste if you leave it seeping for too long in the apple pie. So tool-wise, the only thing you really need is a big pot, a ladle, and maybe a funnel or a measuring cup to pour into the mason jars. So first thing we want to do is add in our liquids. So while we're waiting for the apple juice to warm up, what I like to do is go ahead and wash all the mason jars, dry them out, and then portion out the liquor. Since these are 24-ounce mason jars, I like to add about 8 ounces of Everclear per jar. So you just want to put the box off to the side, because if you leave the jars in here while you're filling it, you're just going to make a mess of the box with all the liquid that will possibly spill. Okay, so we got the jars washed and dried out, so we're ready to pour in our liquor. So all the jars are measured, so I like to throw in about 8 ounces of Everclear per jar. So the apple juice is all heated up. Now we're going to add the sugars and the honey. As the apple juice is heating up, I like to do a taste test of it, because occasionally I'll buy a different type of apple juice, a different brand. You know, some have additional flavors or something like that. I try to keep the apple juice as plain as possible. I don't want any cinnamon or anything like that that could taint things. But occasionally they'll have like an apple crisp apple juice or a pressed apple juice, something like that, that I'm willing to take a chance on and try out. So we're getting close to the point where we're going to add the sugar, but the first thing I'm going to add is some honey. I always like to taste test after each time I add an ingredient. You don't want to keep adding ingredients and find out that you oversweeten something, because you can't take that back. So most recipes call for a cup of sugar. I like brown sugar more than I like white sugar, so I'm going to do this first. And I haven't packed it down, so it's a little loose in there, so it's not quite a full cup. So we're going to give this a good stir. We want to make sure we get all that brown sugar dissolved into the apple juice. So we don't want to go too crazy with the sugar that we're going to add in, mainly because apple juice has a lot of natural sugar in it. But we are going to flavor to our own personal taste. So now that we've added the brown sugar, we'll do another tasting and see how it does and see if we need to add anything else. I'm pretty happy with how the brown sugar tastes. Next, but it's still not quite as sweet as I'd prefer it. So we're going to add about a half a cup of the white sugar. And then we'll go ahead and give it another taste. Ooh, that's a little hot. So we're gonna go ahead and turn off the stove. But I'm really happy with where the sugar level is and the flavor. I still want to add some cinnamon, but that will be a week before Dragon Con and it'll just be straight cinnamon sticks. If you add it before then, you'll start getting a little bit of an acidity taste to it. The apple juice and the sugar is heated up and mixed together really well. I'm really happy with the taste. We've portioned out the liquor. So the next step we're going to do is pull the apple juice off the stove, and then we're going to get a saute pan with a little bit of water in it, and we're going to get that starting to simmer. And what we'll do is we'll put the lids into that to heat up the wax seal. And then once we portioned, it'll be a quick, we'll pull that out with a pair of tongs, set that on top, screw down the lid, and it'll be ready to set aside until September. So what we'll do is we'll just portion out some of the apple juice. We have the apple pie in the mason jars. We got the water just about heated up for the lids. Once that's ready to go, we'll individually do each lid, add it to the mason jar, seal it up, and then we'll set it off to the side for September. So we finished up the apple pie. We're just gonna let it cool on the counter for a little bit, and then we're gonna wipe it down because it's probably spilled a little bit of that sugary goodness of the apple juice on here when you're pouring it in, and you don't want it sticky. Actually, it does feel sticky. So we're gonna go ahead and wipe these down, let them cool down a little bit more, and then we're gonna stick them in the fridge for the next 3 months. So I really enjoy making apple pie for Dragon Con. A, it's cheap. B, it's just fun to experiment around with. And then C, there's a lot of people that make their own versions of apple pie. And a lot of times they'll let you try it. There's even, I think there's meetup groups and things like that where you can do little taste tests and judging and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. Give it a shot, put your own spin on it, and hopefully I'll see you at Dragon Con.